Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Friday. Welcome to the 15th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D advice podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, do my best to answer any of your questions that you might have, you wonderful people out there. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Sorry that we've missed the last 2 weeks. It has just been busy town and stress city these last couple of weeks. So I do have some notes. I had some time to take extensive notes, so I guess that's the one good upside of missing 2 weeks. Hi, everybody. Avram, River, Chris, Jeff. Thank you for joining. Hope everybody's doing well. So, got a couple of notes here. As always, as we do at the front of the podcast, let's remind everyone of the email to please send advice to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. Any questions, please send them there. Also send follow-ups, and I know that a couple of you have sent follow-ups. I'm not going to be doing one this evening, but I will be in the future. So please continue to send those because I do like the idea of following back up with advice that's been dispensed in the past. So maybe we can get kind of a gauge of the advice we're given around these parts. Also, you can get merch at manshorts.com. That is a reminder for anything there. I'm going to be working on hopefully getting some dice together again this year. Putting that in the works. And then also, if you want to contribute to anything that I do musically as Yazik, you can do so on my, you can donate directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik. So, let's get down into it now that we're through the plugs. They are new glasses. Oh, thank you for noticing. Yeah, I did finally update my glasses. And when I did, I noted my profession as Bard on the paperwork for when I got my glasses. Because, I mean, that's technically true. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I got 2 new pair of glasses. I have these and then I have a more fancy pair. But I wanted to go back to like plastic because I kind of like the feel of it. It's chill and more comfortable. Hey, Henry from St. Pete. I used to live down there. And JD, glad you caught me live as well. Hopefully you enjoy it. Oh, here we go with Chris. This has been a while ever since I've gotten this. What do you call a well-balanced horse? Stable. Okay, so let's talk about, I don't play the lute specifically, but I do play guitar. I do play the git fiddle. So for Art Corner this week, I wanted to give a little love to a good friend of the pod and just a cool guy in general, Agent Palmer. I did his podcast recently. So let me pop this up here so that we have a little thing. So he has a podcast. It's called the Palmer Files Podcast. Yeah, he has advised me. It is bi-weekly. He's advised me that the tentative dates for release of the episodes that we did are going to be the 18th of April. And then whatever 2 weeks from that is in May. I really should have written those dates down. But at any rate, his podcast is basically, the way that I describe it is essentially a hodgepodge of humanity. He talks to just different people from all different walks of life. And really his goal that I gathered from it is that he wants to kind of bring back the idea of long form conversation. So it was really fun. I enjoyed it. It was a great experience. And there's really cool, interesting people on there. So I've linked it in the description. And it is the Palmer Files Podcast. So go check that out. That is the feature for this week's Art Corner. Also, while we're on the topic and talking about it, art in general, we had a film that I'm not sure is here. I don't think that it's on YouTube anywhere. But if you Google it, you might be able to find it online. It's called Threshold. It was a short film that we entered in the 48-hour film festival in the city of Jacksonville last year. Now, we've done the 48-hour film festival several times. We've won it a couple of times for our city. For anybody that doesn't know, it's essentially a film competition. You have 48 hours. You're given your prompts on Friday. So Friday night they give you, they're typically three main prompts. You have a character name that must be used, a line that must be used, and a prop that must be used. Anyway, as long as you follow those parameters, you get your prompt on Friday, you shoot your film, you turn it in Sunday. So we made one, and we won our city. We've won the city a couple of times. One with Awake, which is on this channel. But this one, Threshold, won this year as well. And we also won at Filmapalooza in Los Angeles, which was the international version of the 48. So there was like 135 plus teams from all over the world who were in there for that, and we won Best Film for that. And so as a result, it's going to be streamed in the short film corner section of the Cannes Film Festival, which in France, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty stellar. But it's just nice to have some recognition there and get a big win for the city. Like, from what I understand, we're the first team to have won it. We're the first American team to have won it in over a decade. So that's pretty cool. And then also just to like win it for Jax. That's kind of, you know, the film scene around here has been kind of picking up in the last couple of years. So, so that was really cool. That was a nice like little win for us. Really enjoyable. I have not decided if I'm going to France. Obviously it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that I don't want to pass up, but there's a lot to think about more than just the cost. There's just, it's a huge big deal, and it's in May. So, you know, it's kind of like right around the corner. Can't remember the name of the one with the beans. Oh yeah, it was just Beans River. That's the name of that short. That's a good one. Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody. Gonna kick us to the curb and dive into making flicks? No. At a minimum, there will always be bardadvice, but I've actually had like a rekindling love for the editions lately, just because of what's coming this week. Part of me wants to tell people, maybe I won't tell anybody till the end. That'll make you hang around. I'll tell everybody at the end what we're doing. Next week, Sunday. What episode's coming Sunday? Some other notes here in other media in general. Finished The Last of Us. It was pretty good, enjoyable. The Consultant, thought I didn't get. I thought it was strange. I didn't know until I finished it that it was supposed to be a dark comedy. Everything Everywhere All at Once I watched finally a year late after it won Best Picture and all the awards at the Oscars. I wasn't moved in the way that I thought that I would be, but that's probably because I overhyped it in my head, because I am bad about like watching movies. I still haven't even seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that movie came out like years ago. And Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors. Just haven't seen it. Would you ever consider making a movie? Oh yeah, we have a couple of feature scripts done. Still haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is good. I don't want to make it sound like it's not a good movie. I mean, obviously it's a good movie. It won Best Picture. And everything, it just was different than I thought. I kind of ruined it for myself, if that makes sense. Like, I overhyped it in a direction, and then it was in a different direction than I expected, and it was beautiful for what it was, but I just kind of messed it up, I guess, by thinking that it was something different. And then for gaming stuff, currently I'm playing the Spider-Man Remastered, which has been a hoot. I also recently downloaded Skyrim and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Cocaine Bear. Yeah, I've heard that it's good. I'm sure that the thing about a movie like Cocaine Bear is like, you don't want to know anything going in, right? You just want to go in blind. That's all you need to know. I haven't even watched the trailer for that reason. Okay. So, still addicted to New World. If you watch a ton of movies because it's so different, it's not great if you don't watch a lot of movies. Yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely different for sure. Like, it's really a kind of a beautiful tapestry of like what it is to deliver something new and something familiar, like separately at the same time, if that makes sense. Yeah, those guys are. It totally makes sense that those are the turn down for what guys, because it's like, oh yeah, this is what that would look like as a feature. No way, not me. I just do the writing, and I barely do that. All right, so now let's get into some questions because I've got some prepared actually for this week. And the first one is a good one. It's from our friend Nebraska Because. And I'm not sure if they're here, but let me get my names up so I know who everybody else is. So this one is from, oh, hey, Kirk, how are you? Welcome. So this one is from Nebraska Because, and Nebraska asks, how do you feel about the use of AI to create art? And what roles do you see for AI in helping DMs and players augment and enhance RPGs? So the thing with the art, I will say, over the past, first of all, I dabble in the AI art. I'm not like headfirst into it, and that's really only because I'm focusing on other mediums at the moment. I have friends that are involved in it. One in particular, Bobby, who I've mentioned on this podcast before. I think that there are a lot of people online that are really upset, and I don't know if it's warranted. Like, this happened, I'm sure, across history with all kinds of stuff, right? Like, so, because people are saying, like, oh, well, this is like, you're stealing the artist's stuff. And it's like, well, are they, though? Because that's like what fair use is with YouTube content, right? Obviously, if you're outright plagiarizing someone or selling something claiming that it's your own, that's one thing. But these AI things, I recently made I made a video on this channel that it's Steve Urkel as a character. And somebody asked in the comments if I had just put like Steve Urkel elf artificer into the prompt. And I had just made a note that it was like, I wish that it was that easy, because the pictures that I ended up putting in there were like the 40th or 50th iteration of inputs that I was doing. So I do think that there are people who are minimizing the effort that goes into it, at least the people who are taking it seriously. Now, obviously, if you've got people that are just like redistributing stuff as their own for profit, then that's a problem, right? But it's a separate issue from the fact that AI exists. I mean, people have been doing that with Redbubble for over a decade, right? Like printing other artists' stuff onto like coffee mugs and t-shirts and then selling that. Like, that we didn't need AI for that to happen. I'm sure people said the same thing about photography and the printing press and typewriters. Like, I don't think that the artist is going to go away. Now, when you're talking about like how it's going to look from an economic standpoint with corporations and jobs, 100% it's going to be a negative effect on like the human artists, because why would McDonald's pay someone what they were worth when they could just pay a computer to shoot out 1,000 different options that they can later edit and manipulate to make whatever they want, whatever they're looking for. Like, McDonald's has already opened its first AI, its first employee-free store in Houston, Texas. They're not going to not do that everywhere. It's just the nature of AI. Let's see what some of the people are saying here. If you're not directly taking from an artist, it's a good way to get quality art. Like, for me, I write short sci-fi stories and I have no drawing skills. Yeah, and that's I agree with that personally, because I'm the same way. I can't draw at all. I have no eye for like, I'm not even very good at like visual design in general. I know what I like to look at, but I don't know how to make something look good. And I've never been very dexterous. I'm sure that if I took time into doing it, I could develop it like any other skill, but I just never put in any time to drawing. And so something like that is great for me because, yeah, if I want to, I don't have to draw Steve Urkel. I can tell a computer to do it. But as to how it's going to work with DMs and players, I think that it could end up being real. I know that it's going to be great for DMs, and I'm sure that it already is, because, how many times have you as a DM like had to spend 20 to 30 minutes developing some stupid stat block or NPC that you didn't even really care about but was necessary for the overall plot? AI can do all of that heavy lifting now. And then I also think that it could be cool because you could somehow figure out a way to implement the AI with the game. Maybe the AI is running up one of the PCs. And dude, the puns that would be for that. Like, I almost now want to run a game where we have an AI PC. That would be really funny. When you get the funds together to upgrade your machine, you plan to pick the specs when dabbling in AR and mine, specifically so that you have an easier time getting character, NPC, monster art. Yeah, I don't think that the AI thing is bad overall. I think that overall it's good, but I think that people can use it for bad, and corporations are assuredly going to use it for bad. Just in the sense of it's not to say that graphic designers won't exist, because they will. Right? You're going to have people who, whether it's through their own personal opinion or, I think that it might actually have a positive effect on the value of human art. I think the real tricky thing is going to be the curation, and then also being able to authenticate, being able to tell, because we're really close. I don't know if anybody's seen what they're doing with Unreal 5.2, but we're getting real close to not being able to tell the difference if we're looking at a video game or just like a live feed camera of something. And so once that happens, it isn't going to matter if you got paid for your idea, right? Like, I mean, it will overall, but in the grand scheme of things, we're going to have way bigger issues, I think. Self-driving cars, autonomous AI, all that learn like the hive mind. I have seen that meme several times about the whole like voice chat thing with the Teslas. How insane. That's what we need in traffic is voice chat, because it's not awful enough. I just have to say you've been drunk before noon. It's one of my favorite things. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it. Namesake. Yeah, I know. I want to make more Drunk Before Noons. I know I've said that I'm going to, and I actually do have some scripts written. I really should. But yeah, I guess the short answer for the AI stuff is that I think that people's concern is a little overhyped, at least in the department of what it's going to be for an artist. Because I think that human art, as long as you can authenticate it and verify that this was made by a human versus this was made by a machine, that thing that was made by a human, in my opinion, is going to have more intrinsic value. If not in the overall, in overall society, certainly within the art community, right? I mean, art snobs would love to attach the idea of, oh, well, this was done by a human in his garage, which doesn't mean as much now as it will in 10 years when most graphic design, at least on a corporate level, is all made by AI. But I think that it could end up being a really cool, helpful thing for D&D, because it can help minimize the DM's load when it comes to just frivolous nonsense they have to create all the time, little encounters and puzzles. I'd say, for anything, because like I have real hard time coming up with puzzles, and AI, they're just like the result of all of their input. The difference with AI art will eventually be the cost. When the AI is cheaper and quality isn't discernible, human artists will be out of careers, except for the few artisan artists. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Because, I mean, I'm sure that people thought that about photography with painters, right? They were probably just like, well, put those paints down, Picasso. No more, buddy. Why is anybody going to sit on this canvas for an hour and do this when somebody could just click a button? And it's like, yeah, I think that obviously it won't be like it was, but it'll be different. And then there'll be new things. There'll be people's jobs that'll be to curate, that'll be to authenticate. Like there'll be new careers generated from that. So that'll be kind of cool. Yeah, purpose is going to be. Purpose is the real thing we got to chase for. So thank you for the question, Nebraska. I hope that answers it, sort of. I'm not sure if you're even here, but hopefully you'll hear this at some point. Let's move on. I feel like I took a little too much time on that question, but you get me talking about AI, man. I'll be here for days. This next question is from Molly, and it is actually D&D related. So, well, more D&D related, I should say. Molly asks, I'm playing a fighter for the first time. I love my character, but I'm starting to feel like he isn't very useful outside of combat. How can I make sure I contribute to the party's success in non-combat scenarios? Thanks for the show. Thank you, Molly. So congratulations on your first fighter. I've played so many. I love fighters. One of my go-to classes. I did write some notes about this and how to give you an answer. Give them a character trait. That's the note I had. Use your flaws to your advantage. Intimidation. Oh, yeah, so that's a thing. I don't know how this works in 5e. I think that, well, in 5e, it's just a cha check straight up. I don't know if they have actual rules for this, but our forever DM, our good buddy Posey, from years and years ago, he always had a house rule that you could use your strength to intimidate as instead of your charisma. Right? So if you have like dummy strength but Cha's like your dump stat, which a lot of times if you're like a fighter or a barbarian, that's the case, right? Like you usually have good combat skills and bad social skills. So our DM Posey had a house rule or a table rule or whatever you want to call it, wherein we could substitute strength, our strength mod for our charisma roll for intimidation. Because, you know, you don't have to necessarily say something. You could just punch a wall and put a hole in it and scare the crap out of somebody. I think that that's a legitimate form of intimidation. In fact, you could argue that intimidation could almost always be more of a strength check than a charisma check, right? Because, like, that's usually the first instinct is, like, physical foreboding. The foreboding of like physical harm, right? Like you can use any stat for a skill if you want to, and you want in 5e. Really? Is that true? Oh. Well, then if that's the case, dang. I didn't even realize that. That's seems bizarre. But okay. I mean, hey, if that's the rules, then it doesn't even matter. Then you can just... So, yeah, I said use intimidation. That's a cool social thing that you can do that is not necessarily combat. And then also I said, like, use combat knowledge outside of combat for planning, maybe. So perhaps you can apply some of the tactics or mechanics that you use in combat in a social interaction. Now, I can't offhand think of an example of what that might look like. I guess that intimidation was the one that I was thinking of. But the first things that I had said in my notes about it was to give them a character trait and then use the flaws to their advantage. So that's one of my favorite things to do with characters. It gives them a little more depth. Just slightly. So, like, I ran that ranger in the Airships of Nuada campaign, Tantor. And Tantor didn't have much personality, but there were just, like, a couple of little things about him that were kind of, like, could serve as callbacks. So, like, he hated oranges. And then later he had, like, a real love for peach turnovers. So how do you intimidate with dex? I mean, I guess you could juggle a bunch of knives in front of somebody. That'd be pretty scary. That would scare the crap out of me. I'm in a fighter group I'm in has a fighter that can make repair weapons and armor just to keep them busy when they're not in combat. Yeah, that's an easy one too. Like if you're a blacksmith, you're the fighter and you're the blacksmith, you can like... It also gives you further purpose in the party beyond just combat. I mean, obviously, it's a roundabout way of being helpful in combat if you're assisting in forging weapons or repairing weapons and stuff. But in the downtime where you're not in combat, it gives your character purpose, right? Because that's the thing that you could be doing. Play with a dagger by doing tricks with it, yeah. With a military background, you can talk or negotiate with other military types that wouldn't respect the civilians. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point that KMS Bean made is, yeah, use your background with other fighters. socially. So, you know, you're not the only fighter. There are other fighters among the world who are also not very good socially. And so you can use that to your advantage because they wouldn't listen to other of your party members who maybe weren't as seasoned of a veteran, as veteran of a fighter as you are. So that's a good one. Multi-class next level. Conan the movie seemed to have some stealthy rogue stuff going on. Cool. Dex intimidation, Russian roulette, finger stabbing thing. Oh, yeah, the knife hand game. What do they call that thing? There's a name for it, I thought. You can do it in Red Dead. How insane, right? Somebody that was just like, you know, I'd like to cut my fingers off, but I'd like it to be a game. That's a weird one. All right. Well, thank you for the question, Molly. Hopefully that gives you some little bit of direction. I think that there were some good answers in there for you. And I hope you enjoy your fighter and continue to do so. The next question we have, according to my list of names, is from Richard. And Richard asks, my character died in our last session, and I'm not sure what to do next. How can I create a new character that fits well with the group and the story? Well, first of all, rip. Sorry that your character died. That's never fun. Well, sometimes it's fun. But, yeah, that's always tough. So let me look at that again really quickly. So as to creating a character that fits well with the group and the story, I always tell people to play what you want to play. Yeah, F's in the chat for the fallen character. I always tell people to play what you want to play. It doesn't necessarily have to fit in the party, although it always is nice to fit in the party if you can. So the notes that I have is that there are 3 steps to this, while keeping in mind that what you want to do, in my opinion, holds the most weight. But I would talk to the DM first before the party. Then I would talk to the party. And then, based on those information, but based on those conversations and the information gleaned from within, I would make my decision. But I think that you should do what you want to do. Some of the people in chat say, don't make a character that meshes well with the party, make one that doesn't. Better role-playing interactions that way. Yeah, that's a good point. You could go that route. Landfill 2, the long-lost identical twin brother. Yeah, I have a habit. I have a habit of doing that, of losing a character midway. I've done it in 2 campaigns on this channel, but I've done it before too. Earl, son of Earl. Yeah, so I wouldn't get so hung up on it being a character that would interact well with the rest of the party. Consider that a bonus if that happens, but I think I think you should just do what you like to do. And I'm the type of DM where it's like, if you do want to do something that's cheesy like that, that's fine. If you want to be like, you know, if you have a character named like Bill that dies and then like his brother Will comes in to replace him, I'm fine with that. Why didn't the party get the character revived? Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Maybe I don't know if this person, Richard here, is a first-time player or not, because it makes me wonder if his character just died and then that was the end of the session, and so now he's like, well, now what? Usually there's some sort of ceremony, but to Anthony's point, I hadn't even considered that. Yeah, you could get him revived. You got revival money? Could be too low a level or it's too expensive. Yeah, that's good points. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with making a carbon copy of a character if you really like it, and just, you know, easily explaining away the differences. But I think that yeah. Michael asks if the party mourned the passing. I'm not sure if Richard's in here or not, but if they did, something tells me that there wasn't any time for that. Like, I feel like this just happened to this person, and then they just like immediately were like, "Hey, what now?" But I would hope that there would be some sort of mourning process and folding up of, or burning of, or storing away of character sheet. Bring in an assassin who'd been hired to kill your previous character and is now in trouble because someone else beat him to the target. Oh, that's a really cool idea. That's kind of fun. Like, he shows up into the party and he's like, "All right, where is he?" That's pretty good. Oh, thank you, Nebraska. Oh, don't worry about it. Much appreciated. Thank you for the membership. All right. So that one was like kind of easy. I don't know. Let's keep moving. We've got more questions to get to. The next question is from E. That's all that they designated, so that's all they'll get. E asks, and it's a big one. I'm playing a human monk in a party with a gnome rogue. We both have really high acrobatics. We get along really well in-game and out, and have talked about doing acrobatic moves together, like me launching her over enemies. How would this work? Would the higher initiative player announce the move, and then it happens on the lower initiative player's turn? So, I wasn't entirely sure on this mechanically, because I know that it depends on Sorry, I lost my train of thought completely. It depends on the addition first, obviously, right? But like the help action, so is the help action grants advantage on the attack? Is that true? In 5e, one of the actions is help. So I also put in the description a link to a quick reference turn guide that breaks down, at least in 5e, how you can do it. Yeah, I guess in 3.5 it was aid another. But that was, well, aid another was kind of a different thing, but you can also assist on skill checks. So I guess it really depends on like what it is exactly you're doing, but the way that I would do it is that how you set it, right? So I would have the higher initiative player announce whatever they were doing. Oh, hold on a second. River is saying the player with the higher initiative roll holds their action. Well, that makes sense, actually, right? Yeah, that is what it would be. So that's how it would work, right? So if I wanted to jump off of you, say, into combat, I would ready an action to do that, assuming that you were able to succeed in your action of throwing me. Because if you fail that, then it won't matter if I succeed. It depends on if the person doing the throwing rolls higher initiative. Yeah. So the player with the higher initiative, so it seems like you've already got it figured out. The player with the higher initiative would announce whatever their role was, or whatever they were planning on doing, and kind of hold that. I made a note here that you could also do it in a way. I mean, I guess that there's no. This is 3.5 stuff. How it used to work. Like I said that you could maybe set up a reaction. I didn't realize that the help action granted advantage on attacks. That's crazy. Or combat maneuvers. Feet from 3 for double flanking. But maybe set up a reaction. It depends on how you're doing it. But if you're looking to capitalize on the mechanics, you could set up a reaction that might invoke an AO. But I mean, I don't know if necessarily just does using the help action, can that invoke an AO anyway? They must delay their action also. had players who were a duo, so I had them roll initiatives and average the dice, so that would take their turn together. That was fun. Oh, that sounds like a fun way to do it too. Yeah, that's the other thing to consider in all of this, is what your DM says, because I've had DMs make little house rules like that for us before, where we're not necessarily playing the way that we're supposed to in initiative order, but usually I'd say just talk to your DM about how they want to do it, but. Was hosting Bard, cutting heads guitar style. Is there an ability of the best one? What? Monk picks up the gnome as the move, then makes an attack action to yeet. Yeah, rule of cool. Yeah, pretty much. That's what I put a note as, is like if you're exclusively doing it for flair, then you don't even have to worry about the mechanics. You can just do it however you want. But if you're doing it in a way to capitalize on the mechanics of it, particularly if it grants you advantage like that, then you want to, I would guess, make sure that you were doing it correctly, in which case it seems like you already have an understanding for how it would work. You would just kind of have to take your turn when you could on your action based on what it is you wanted to do. So if your goal is to jump off of, if the goal is for you to throw her, then you've got to do that, and then she's got to, she won't be able to attack until her turn. Fireball special like Colossus and Wolverine. Either way, it's 2 actions for 1 attack. Huh. Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, obviously you would have to be like within range and all of that stuff would have to work, but yeah, assuming all of that stuff works, sounds like you already know what you're doing. They consume their ability to help if they throw and all that other stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's just help. It's part of the action sequence. Or rather, it's part of your turn sequence. It is an action, right? May have to hold action, so both go at the same time, and then roll the throw and landing hit. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is it depends on how your DM wants to do it. Because, I mean, even if there is an explicit mechanic for how it works, they don't necessarily have to do it that way. They might not allow it at all. I would, and they probably will, because, I mean, it's cool, so. That's just like my opinion. But hopefully that gives you somewhat of an answer. Would a Smurf be stronger than a brownie? Brownie? Like the food? I would hope so. Well, wait a minute. It's a good question. Reminds me of an idea for 3 characters, 2 Orf battle ragers who adopt an orc child, a battle rager in each hand. Brownie Faye. Oh. I don't know. That's a good question. I'd probably have to go with the fairy, right? Magic and all that. What do the Smurfs even do but sing and run away from that cat? Gargamel. All right. Well, thank you, E. Hopefully that gives you some semblance of guidance into the acrobatic stuff. But I think that's cool. I've done that before with characters. It's always fun to have like a buddy kind of duo going on, especially in combat. So enjoy. The next question, according to our list of names that I just closed, is from Jenna. And Jenna asks, I've been our group's DM for 5+ years. Oh boy. Recently we added 2 new players to the table. While they seem to grasp the game mechanics, they don't offer much in the way of role play. I'm not sure if that's nerves or they're just not that into RP, but it disrupts the flow sometimes. How can I encourage role playing at my table? Alrighty. So first of all, thank you for the question. Are they new players? Now, obviously, they're new to your table. But are they new, period? Because if they're brand new players to the game in general, is a very good chance that they're just shy and don't know how to act. I've talked about this before. I have been creating content in hopes to entertain people for 15 plus years. That said, I get nervous every time I do this thing. And even in 15 years of playing D&D, I sometimes get nervous at the table if I'm like trying to do a new voice or do some kind of cool thing. So if they're brand new, knowing that, right? Knowing my experience and how I can get tripped up sometimes, if they're brand new, it's probably that it's just nerves. Even if they're seasoned and experienced players, it could just be that it's nerves at your table because they don't know you. And now that I think about it, it sounds like that's actually more of the case because you said that they understand the game really well mechanically. So they've probably got some experience under their belt. It might just be that they are nervous because they're at your table and that maybe they don't necessarily know what your limitations or boundaries are when it comes to comedy or what you want to do with the story itself. Let's see what people are saying. River says you can't really force a player to RP. It usually comes down to the other party members to include them in their RP. That's true. Or they just want to smash things. Yeah. It's this is what I made. This is the notes that I made. Force it through the story. So all of that said, it could just be nerves, so you might want to give it time. Who knows? Maybe next session they come out swinging with RP. Just can't be totally sure. It could just be that they're not into it. I mean, you could just ask them. You could always just ask them. But I would say that if you want to try and maybe avoid like a direct kind of confrontation, like because that could be off-putting, right? They could be like, what the hell are you talking about? We have been RPing. But, or they could just be like, oh, well, who cares? And then just like get upset and leave. So I'd say that like if you want to avoid asking them outright, which you could always just do, you can force it through the story. Maybe somebody in the party is kidnapped and they have to come up with or rather I said maybe the party itself is kidnapped and they have to come up with a plan to escape. Perhaps the captors ask them a lot of personal questions to try to get information from them, which forces them to at least respond and try and engage. Also, non-combat stuff like puzzles or riddles, an event that requires surveillance, or a mission like a bank robbery that requires like a lot of pre-planning. Some players, I'm seeing this said in chat, and I agree with this too. Like some players just don't really like to. They're just not there for the RP. They're like Sarah. They're just there to, they're just like I'm here to kick ass and RP, and I don't care about RP. Like, there are just some players that are like that. Last time I played, I loved the role play and just kept asking what I needed to roll. Talk to them away from the table, see what they think about RP, and one out of the game. Some players don't want RP, others want it. Yeah, and I kind of try to get that point across in the D&D editions on the channel, right? Like, there's a joke early on, years ago when we did the We Play D&D, in one of the early episodes, there's a math conversation, and it's really kind of embarrassing, but there's a funny moment in there. There's a little segment, a little clip where I say, Jay says, the guy who plays Lance, Jay says, it's not about math. And then I say, well, sometimes it's about math. And Rigsby says, it's always about math. And I think that there are those those three type of players. And I try to put those across in the episodes, right? You have Sarah. She doesn't give a damn about role play or any of that mess. She's just there to like kill stuff. And then Lance, he doesn't care about combat at all. He's there for the story, for the RP and the character. And then I think that Waylon is kind of in the middle. Like he kind of likes it. He likes both. Sometimes he's fun and goofy, and then other times he gets really mechanical and into the nitty-gritty of stuff. Not sure if this is the appropriate forum, but as someone who hasn't played D&D but really enjoys what y'all do, just wanted to thank y'all for the content. And my daughter loves the Man Shorts logo. Thank you, Linwood Ross. I really appreciate the generous donation. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. And the kind words. I'm glad that you enjoy the content. And you should play D&D if you get the chance. It's very fun. Just wanted to say your rap is top tier. The skits are cool, but your rap is killer good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I am still working on stuff always. Better late than never. Missed you last week. Hey, Pirate. Yeah, sorry, man. Didn't make it last week. Wasn't here. But here we are. We're back on top of it this week. I do really appreciate the words there, Linwood. And also, is it Spike Juggalo? Appreciate that. I'm always trying to work on music, and I'm working on a new one that I'm going to try and get out there. No GL's been out, but I'm working on an even newer one. So, thanks everybody for the kind words. RP also doesn't need to be done with verbatim in-character conversation. The players can just tell you what they want to convey and make rolls as needed, Flint said. Yeah, that's true. They don't necessarily have to act it out. They can always just... I think maybe this is a conversation for you and your other party members as well. Not that you should try and make it seem like you're like going back behind the other players' backs or anything, but this is the order of things that I would do. The first thing I would do is I would give it another session or two, because you don't know if they're acting like that just because it's you. Unless you want to address it immediately, I would give it another session or two, because it might just work itself out, in which case you don't even have to say anything at all, and it would have been awkward if you did. If it's driving you crazy and you feel like you have to address it immediately, I think that you should address it with them first and say to them, like, hey, are you, so let me just, for my purposes, to just kind of get a gauge, like, what it is you want out of this. Like, do you guys really care about role play very much? Because that can at least inform you on how to move forward. Maybe this isn't the group for them. Or maybe they're not the players for you. You have to have those conversations to find that out, though. So... some people call you Skype. Yeah, I almost did. I figured that happens a lot. Love about the channel is it's family friendly. We try to be. We try to be as much as we can. The problem you often run into is conveying what is possible. The player isn't standing there to see what could be seen operated, and that limits them. When your wife and you realized Florida editions were actually stories. Oh, yeah. Not every single thing, but like 95% of the things on the Florida editions are just straight out of the headline. It's the easiest script to write. We'll talk about rap for a little bit. Well, hold on now. Let's not hijack the podcast. We've got some more questions still, and not much time. Geez, I didn't realize we'd been talking for this long. Talking a lot about nonsense about AI. Okay, so that was from Jenna, that last question. Never tell us we didn't come from actual headlines. Tell us what didn't come from actual headlines in Florida edition. Oh, I couldn't even be able to tell you because the list would be so minimal. It's the actual process of what they go through, the characters themselves, those are real stories, straight out of headlines. All right, 2 more questions. Let's keep it going. The new show, I don't know when it's starting. I need to finish the script, to be honest. But this next one's from Chris, if you can believe it. And Chris asks, my sister is playing a druid. Since they don't get companions in 5e, so sad, I'm giving her a chance to befriend a stallhound in the future. Which, by the way, if anybody doesn't know what that is, because I wasn't sure, it's that guy. Which, I mean, dude, how cool is that for him to be your companion? Look at his little green eyes. He's a little friendly guy. So anyway, giving her a chance to befriend one of those in the future. I've never played a druid, and I'm unsure what the companion do. Well, that's. Let me just say, for Chris's sake, that's not how he wrote that. That's how I wrote it. I'm unsure what the companion do. What do the companion do? I think that's supposed to say does. For example, does it get automatically added into initiative, or is it only commanded by the druid as an action? Any examples or advice is appreciated. Thank you for the question, Chris. I linked for you in the description a link to the 3/5 druid, where the the 3/5 druid, where the companion information is as to how it works. So the short answer is that yes. In 3/5, the companion had its own initiative. That said, the druid and the companion have like a telepathic link, essentially. So it being a free action to speak or think, you can just command it as you want to. Now, it's not going to be able to do anything until its turn, but it does have its own initiative. And yeah, I'm seeing people in chat sounding off about the 3/5 druid. Yeah, it's so fun because you're essentially I mean, it depends on how you want to play it, but like I would always run it like tanks. So I would always run like, I don't know. I just like run a druid with a wolf companion and then also shift into a wolf. And now I'm just 2 wolves. And it's like, hey man, you know that old 2 wolves adage? I'm actually the wolves. Like, yeah, dude, 3/5 companions were nuts. Now, 3/5 rangers got companions also, but I don't think that they were as powerful. I think that they were like either halved or quartered. Maybe they were the same, but I don't think so. But that's what's dope about it is that, you know, as the druid, you can shift into a wolf and then just like still be communicating with the other one. Yeah, they have kind of their own chart on that thing that I put there. Now, I also, for another question that we've got coming up, it's actually the next question, got linked in the description, links to content conversion guides. Now, I'm not sure if these things are, I think that this is just looks like a breakdown. So it's on Drive Through RPG, and it looks like it has good ratings, but it's essentially a content conversion guide for Pathfinder 5e, Pathfinder 2, looks like some other things, D20. And then there's also like a content conversion mapping inventory guide, but maybe that might help you with being able to just kind of like switch that over into 5e. See what people are saying. You have only 3 players for your game and you give them all companions and they all have their own turns. Yeah. In this situation, you grab the UA Ranger Beast Conclave and literally just copy that. Oh, okay. That's a good point, Flat. Converting 3/5 to 5e is really hard if you're not super familiar with both systems. Okay, cool. So thank you, Flint. Hopefully that is more helpful, Chris. So it looks like the Unearthed Arcana Ranger Beast Conclave can just kind of be copied into existing as a Druid companion. I haven't looked too much into the playtest stuff, the new playtest stuff, and I don't know how much new playtest stuff is even out yet, but like are they addressing that? What is with the Druid not having a companion? If anybody in the game needed a companion, it's the Druid. It's the class that is built around the animal kingdom. It just doesn't make any sense to me, you know? But, I mean, they're also a lot stronger. That's the nature of the issue with 5e and making all the classes viable. Not to say that they weren't viable in 3.5, but I don't know. They had to make the classes stand strong on their own, I guess. Speak with animals and such. Yeah. 3.5 Ranger Companions were halved. Okay, cool. Thank you. I thought that was the case. Wizards definitely dropped the ball on that one in 5e. Yeah, no doubt, man. It's unfortunate because it's like, ugh, I love druids. And they're cool in their own right now. They have things that they didn't used to have, but man. All right. So let's get to the last question. Thank you, Chris. Hopefully that points you in the right direction. You want all the players to feel useful or powerful. Yeah, for sure. This last question is from Zach, and this is about conversion stuff for gaming stuff. So Zach asks, the OGL debacle was a good excuse for me and my group to do something I've wanted to do for a while now, play a different system. The issue is that I was already committed to running Strixhaven, the 5e adventure. We've decided to continue playing that adventure until the Pathfinder 2e rule set. So far, the game has gone well, both from a role-playing and mechanical standpoint, but I'm curious to know if you have a process for adapting pre-written adventures to different editions or game systems. Thank you for the question. Now, while I don't, I've linked in the description some guides for someone who has. Looks like it's from Infinium, maybe, Game Studios on Drive-Thru RPG. But it looks like it's got pretty good ratings. I mean, there's only 14 ratings, but and by the way, this was just something that I found on a quick Google search. That's actually what I was going to recommend you do, is look to see if someone else has published things that give you that kind of stuff. Thank you for all the great entertainment. Thank you, Trent Becker, Alan Benbow. Thank you. Someone write a book entitled The Life and Times of Vecna. Played a druid that changed circles with the lunar cycle. Good way to try out a different circles without having to pay a bunch of different characters. Oh, that's a really cool idea. What a cool idea. Then it's just like every session or every session or two, you're just like playing with different spells and stuff. 90% of conversion between systems and editions is system familiarity. Okay. That's a good point, Flint. So, yeah, now looking back, I don't think that I don't think that Zach actually needs my guidance per se, because it looks like you've already put in, you're already using the Pathfinder 2e rule set and it's going well, but you're just curious in general. Yeah, I think that Flint does make a really good point. Familiarity among systems matters because it's just about kind of like referencing it in your head, right? So if you know how something works in 5e, it's like you can think to 3.5 or D20 Modern or any other system as to like how it would work and what that might be. But thankfully, with the internet, we've got these people that have put out these publications who already have somewhat of an idea of how to do it. Let's see. If you know both systems, it works great. Currently running the first edition Dragonlance Sage DL 1 through 16 and 5e on Foundry. Usually take the flavor of what I want from a different system and apply it to the system you want to run. It's less of a hassle. Yeah. Yeah, everybody's different with how they do it and what works best for them. But I'm the type of person who, like, I'm not going to create my own way to do it. I'm more liable to just write a whole new thing, homebrew. See, I will say this is part of the downside to like pre-written adventures, is because you're kind of like stuck to whatever game it was written in if you don't want to convert it. That's kind of a pain in the ass. So it makes me wonder if there's going to be, and probably more likely now, right, there will be, but I know that there's been an uptick, especially with our sponsors lately, but just in general, since the OGL nonsense, there's been a big uptick in people just creating content in general that is kind of like, I mean, obviously 5e compatible, but just kind of compatible across the board. I don't know. I wonder if we'd be able to come up with a system where you could kind of standardize content so that it would just easily lay on top of whatever it was, no matter what it was. Type game needs nothing more than our collective imaginations. Yeah, that's true. Too lazy to read pre-written module settings, so you just make your own. Yeah, 100%. Most of the stuff that I've ever played has been homebrew. You usually don't mess with pre-written adventures. Now, there is, there is benefits to it, or I should say there are benefits to it. Perks of homebrewing my own world is it counters the rules lawyers who know the monster manual in and out. That's true too. That is a real big benefit to your own world is your own rules as to how things work. So it's just like, yeah, I know. I've used that to my advantage more than once. Of just like, oh, well, that's just how it works here, man. Sunglasses, deal with it. Like, that's just what we're doing. Been nearly 100% homebrew since the late 70s. Hell yeah, Kirk. Keeping that energy alive. The homebrew stuff, I will say, like, I think we'll all look back at the OGL thing as, like, even though it was awful, it'll be probably looked back upon fondly because it'll be like the spark that lit the fuse, of all this just explosion of new content. We've got a new sponsor that we're doing on Sunday. I really shouldn't speak about them yet. You can just see the ad on Sunday if you watch the video. But, the one we did last week was for that Penny Dragon Games. They made the Vagabond's Guide to Dalriada. It's really, really cool stuff. Like, when we do those kind of things, we're given all of those kind of like assets and information content to use to build the ad. But when we're watching it, it's just like when I was going through the content, like while I was making the ad, I was just like, this stuff is so cool. And it probably never would have happened if all of that OGL drama didn't happen. Things probably would have just, that's what's so hilarious, is that like if Wizards would have just shut up and just not said any of that nonsense and just like kept floating along, they probably would have ultimately just eaten up all of these other little third-party game content makers. But now you threw the gauntlet down and lost. And now all of these third-party, and believe me, because I'm talking to them, because they're sponsors, these third-party creators are like, no, to hell with that. We're just gonna make this stuff. We're just gonna keep making content. We're going to make lots of it. We're going to, in fact, use this as an opportunity to make more content than we ever made before. So, it's been pretty great. Creative commerce for the win, indeed. Let's see. Dire wolves are brutal. They vomit rot grubs. Oh my gosh. Yikes. Free advertising for their movie. Oh, yeah. And I guess that we won't be back here. Oh, I guess we'll be back here the night the night that the movie comes out. I'll probably end up seeing it that afternoon. I actually haven't seen it yet. And I know that there was opportunity to do so with early screenings and stuff, but I haven't seen it yet. Part of me wants to go to the movie itself, even though I know it's going to be like $1,000. Because the movies are just so expensive these days. But part of me wants to just physically go, just because it'd be kind of an experience to see. I'm still a little upset with Wizards, and I've still got my eye on them in general about what they're doing with stuff. But it looks I'll say this: the movie looks like it's gonna be better than any other one we've ever gotten before, and in some of the reviews that I've seen from people who have seen it, they seem to be really praising it. Now, it could just be an episode 1 Star Wars thing where we're just so happy after 20 years to finally have a property and, but I've heard that it's good things. So I've heard good things about it. So I'm going to watch it. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on them. So does anybody want to know? Let's vote. Let's see what people say in chat. Do you want to know what episode is coming Sunday? Because I said at the end of the episode last week that it would be a surprise with no real hints. But I don't know if anybody wants to know. I'm personally excited about it. I've already started editing it. I've already started working on it. I think I'll just keep it a surprise. Now I feel badly because a couple of people have said no. And so I don't want to do any spoilers. I'll just say this. It's going to have been worth it. It's going to be really funny. I think you'll really enjoy it. So that's where we're going to end for this evening. I can't believe that the episode went by this fast. I'm surprised I was able to get through it. It's been an emotional week, just in general, across the board. The last couple of weeks, it's just been busy. Just trying to press on. Put your head down and move forward. Make drunk before noon. Yeah, I will. I'll take this as a sign to do that, to make it done. Thank you everybody for coming and spending time and just chilling out for a little while. Thank you for all of the donations, whether you do so via Super Chat or with the memberships or with Patreon. However you contribute to us financially is very much appreciated. We couldn't do it without you. I've been really enjoying this podcast in spite of missing the last 2 weeks and having that big gap there. I'm surprised that we were able to rally people together and, in spite of my missing the last 2 weeks. So thank you, everybody, for coming and spending a little time. We will be here next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, and I might be talking about the movie. I'm going to do my best, even if I do see it, to not give any spoilers, but I will be honest with my opinion on it. I don't have a problem with dragging it if it's not good, but I've heard good things. So hopefully everybody has a great week. We will see you next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then the audio will be available the following Saturday at 12 p.m. noon. So thanks, everybody.